met Mo, probably 2019. He was having like some issues with like his shoulder, which was like directly affecting his shot and just like everything, how his body felt, everything wise, I guess, like in basketball. And then after taking him through like a couple sessions of just like some mobility and just helping him do some like homework, or giving him some exercise to do at home, he then mentioned to me, hey, all this mobility stuff is great and it's helping my body out tremendously. I don't really have anybody that I necessarily see or refer players to. So then that is when Mo introduced me to Ken, and then I went and received a session from Ken, and then right after that session realized that yes, there are levels to receiving manual therapy, sure. And especially if you're an athlete like Mo who spends most of his life on a basketball court, like you need something that is very tailored and specific to like your body type and your sport, and that's exactly what I feel like the Moench Method is.
At that point, I was on the verge of retiring, so I was like, I don't care if it hurts. I kind of took the same approach with doing C's homework, which also was taking an hour and a half, 2 hours, which should have took 10 minutes. So I was like, at this point, like if I'm gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it. I don't care if it hurts. I don't care if every time I go to Ken, I'm gonna be on the table in tears. Like, these guys are here to help me, so I'm gonna let them do their job. So,
describe the stuff though. Like you were playing for UT, and you had some ankle issues. Okay, and then go from there forward, because it's a lot to unpack, and unless people understand just all the stuff that you were going through, then they don't realize how you got where you are right now.
Right. So this actually goes back before UT. My junior year at Little Rock, the day before our NCAA tournament game, we're going through a walkthrough, shoot around, literally like less than 24 hours before we play. And my shoe gives out, and what I thought was a bad ankle sprain was a broken ankle. And so we played 2 games on that, then had all summer, transferred to Texas, did the whole first workout session in the summer, and was still kind of feeling stuff in my ankle. And when I got an MRI, they were like, yeah, it's actually broken. So then sat out, came all the way back, and then one day we were leaving a football game, and I was walking across the street to my dorm, and my foot started hurting. I didn't know why, same foot. And then, long story short, I ended up having strep in that foot, like having to go get emergency surgery. Like, it was really bad. And then after that, never got like full range of motion back, and just still trying to work out, shoot, and play, but started overcompensating because of not having full range of motion in that foot, which then led to my wrist tightening up because I was shooting the wrong way because I was leaning more on one side, which then led to my shoulder tightening up, and then now I'm having to use too much to shoot, and then my hips are tightening up. And that is all gradually happening over like 2 or 3 years, like over working out, not getting enough sleep, not doing what I need to do to specifically address issues in the weight room. And so, yeah, and then the COVID year, I played, and like my hand was so bad I could barely catch the ball. Like I couldn't do this. Like my hand was like spasming when the ball was in my hand because everything was so tight. And then hips and stuff was bad. Like I was having trouble bending. Like every time I bent, there was like a pain I would get behind my knee. I didn't know why. And so luckily, just, my dad and I went to Ken's house one day just on a whim, and then the guy, Zach Urbanus, BTY Basketball, who I do all my basketball stuff with, he had just met Cristian before we partnered and became TPA and all that stuff. And so it was like the perfect storm of meeting Ken and doing that, and then meeting Cristian to do like the mobility and durability to kind of make sure that I could complement the work that Ken did on my own and not like have to come see Ken every 12 hours. So
Mo just like a lot of the athletes that we work with, he's one of the hardest working people that we ever been around. And it's like his motto is like, I got to keep working or else I'm just not going to be getting anywhere. And what we realized was that he was so overworking his body that there was not almost any chance he was ever going to get better because his body wasn't recovering ever. And so sleep posture plays a big role in it, because if your body's neutral at night, then it's not tightening up at night, and then your body can relax and can get blood supply through the whole thing, and your nervous system can calm down, and your body can reboot because you're not tossing and turning all night long. And so that was a huge, really important aspect of what we're trying to get him to do with this machine that he had built and gotten strong and everything else, but it was getting it to reset so he could actually start making gains in the proper form and range of motion and all that type of thing. So that was a big part of it. And then it was just a matter of really just incorporating all the stuff that he already knew to do. Basketball is not the problem. It was just getting the machine that was going to be shooting the basketball and playing the game to get healthy so that he could continue doing what he loves doing.
4 months after I first met Mo, we started a training program, and the training program was basically 1 hour in the weight room, 1 hour on the court. So 1 hour doing skill training and then 1 hour doing strength and conditioning training. And I remember when we first met Mo, he couldn't participate in the groups because his body just wasn't even at a, it wasn't even at a baseline. It wasn't even at zero. It was like at -50. And so it's like, okay, so he kind of had his own subgroup. And I remember the very first time we took the parking brake off and we're like, okay, Mo can jump into like the normal group now. We were doing sled sprints. And I remember the first time he sprinted, it was like the most unorthodox run and sprint I've never seen anybody run and sprint like that. And obviously he's in the best state of his life right now from an athletic standpoint, so we can like smile and laugh about it now. But I remember he was like running on his heels, and then his like every time his heel would contact, his like foot would turn out, and sometimes it would turn in, but sometimes it would turn out, and it was like, okay, like again, this guy's just not ready to like perform. And now like when you look at him run and you're looking at him jump and doing all these movements like in basketball, gearing up for a shot, his feet and his body just looks so much stronger. When he runs now, he's running on his like midfoot the way he's supposed to. Everything is connected to one another. Everything is talking to one another. The feedback system that's supposed to happen is like happening. And obviously a huge piece of that is the body work, getting those tissues that are tight to now start talking and sharing forces with one another, and like taking the emergency brake off of the vessel. And like, yes, it's through his like methods of, you know, hands-on therapy with the individual, but it's, you know, his method is bigger than just that. It's talking about hydration, right? It's talking about how you're sleeping, and just like systemically like taking care of your body from a recovery and a rest standpoint. And I think that falls in line. I think that's probably why, one of the big reasons why Mo made this connection between us is because Durable Athlete, the brand that myself and my fiance created, like was everything around like lifestyle habits. The gym is one of those things and working out is one of those things, but it's not everything. And in order for us to want to show up at our best version in the gym or on the court, we have to take care of the other 23 hours that we have, which again was probably the main reason why when Mo had met Ken, it helped him out tremendously. And then when I met Mo and then was able to kind of help further facilitate that same process, it's like we're saying the same thing, just coming at it from slightly different angles, but ultimately always meeting at the same spot of like, if you don't rest, if you don't recover, if you don't take care of your body outside of like training time, then your body's just never going to succeed, or it's never going to progress to the point that you want it to get to.
You're not going to get up and walk out and not feel like, holy crap, that's way better than it was. Because nobody, look, trust me, here's the thing. I have an issue that I have to deal with every single time somebody walks in our door. It's like you have the opportunity to make an enormous difference in a person's body in a session. You can unlock so many different things. That's all going to hurt, because what we do is painful, but it's because you're lengthening tissue that's been contracted sometimes since before they were born, sometimes an injury that happened 8 years ago. And so the dilemma is I can do my thing, hurt them, knowing it's going to help, but help enough that they're going to come back again. So it's like, we've had very few people that said, I'm out. That's not what I'm going to do. But my whole thing is, look, I want him better, or anybody better, as quickly as we can get that done. Now you have to tailor that to who you're dealing with, but I knew that this guy was going to be working and he wanted to be better faster. So we just plowed through and just did stuff. And when people see, look, one of the things that we get more than anything else is people come in almost always doubting that what you're going to do is going to be any different than what somebody else did. And then you do it and they look at you like, this is actually going to work. What happens is they have hope for the first time, which is pretty cool. And so it's once you get something to let go, like he would shoot a ball and his hand would do this, or he'd go to catch a ball and his hand would do this and the ball would hit the back of his hand. I mean, there were so many things that were so messed up, from his neck into his shoulder, down into his wrist, his hips, his legs. But when he felt better, then it's like, okay, now we're going. And so it's everybody's going to feel it the first time. And then it's once they understand that you know what you're doing and that you can make a difference in a way that their machine is working, then they're bought in. Then it's like, no, let's go. Let's get this done. And so I really don't worry about whether or not it's going to work. I've been doing this for 30 years and it does work, so that's cool. And so it's what gives me confidence when I talk to people about this. It's great to work with people that work as hard as Mo does, because there's nothing worse than a lazy athlete that's really super talented that they're not ever going to see their potential because they won't work. And people like Mo, all you have to do, everything else is there. It's just getting their body right so that they can actually get to the level that they're supposed to be. And that's fun.
I try and make the most out of every situation. I was very hopeful that it did work, because my next option was, all right, something is wrong that we have to go get surgery. And I didn't want surgery because then it would have been my fourth one. And I was looking to avoid that at all costs. But it's funny, I always tell one of them, like, after the first session, and then once I really got locked in with Cristian, like, I'll come every 3 or 4 weeks now and think I have an aha moment, but it's because I'll go to Ken and then I'll do my homework with Cristian, and then I'm making sure I'm consistent in my habits at home, so something will kind of loosen up and ease up, and so then I don't have to worry about it. And so now it's like, all right, that's one less problem. And so now it's like, okay, well, now maybe I can try this to fix this issue with my shooting or my moving or whatever. And so then, like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but now, like, everything is starting to gradually feel better and better and better over time. So now I can, like, actually get to what the actual issue is, and now every time I do it, I can do it, with correct mechanics, and I'm not overcompensating. So now it's like, oh, okay, well, that actually wasn't an issue. And so I feel like I have that aha moment every 2 or 3 weeks. I feels like something feels different. And like even now, like I kind of go through this process of, if something starts to hurt, then it's like, all right, well, let me hit my, my mobility or durability stuff from Cristian first. And then if that doesn't work, if I can't do it, then in my head I go to, well, it's because something's tight. So then I'll go to Ken. And then usually after 2 or 3 sessions, or one session, or sometimes 2 or 3, if something's really bad, then it's like, okay, so now I don't, like if stuff hurts or if, something isn't feeling right, now I don't panic anymore. I kind of have this system in place to where it's like, okay, let me try and move through it. All right, if that doesn't work, I can't move through it because I physically can't. So now let's try and loosen that up. And usually I'll end up being able to be like, okay, in between one of those two, the answer is in there somewhere. Yeah. So it's been exciting because it doesn't take me as long to warm up. It doesn't take me as long to do my homework. The last session I had with Ken last Friday, it hurt, but it was the least that it hurt since I've been going for 3 years. So it's just, yeah, it's exciting now just to see, like, now I can actually see how good I can be, or like, how much improvement I can make, because I feel like I'm not always having to start from zero. I can go to bed on Friday and not lose anything Saturday, Sunday, and actually continue to get better Monday throughout the week. So that's exciting, especially because I'm getting older. I don't know how much longer I was gonna play. So at this point, it's just like, let's just keep going until we can't. So,
I mean, I feel like for the most part, like the culture within most sports and athletes is, yeah, like rest and recovery is like you're soft, and rest and recovery is like, or mobility is almost like an afterthought, or like that's something you do in the training room, or that's something you do when you get hurt or when you need correctives. But in reality, like, we don't move and we don't have a lifestyle like our first ancestors had, right? Like as hunter-gatherers, like we are way more sedentary and we're way more specialized as an athlete, that like our ancestors weren't doing those things. And so when you specialize in something like, let's just say basketball, right? You weren't made to shoot a basketball 1,000 times a day. You were not made to run as fast as you can and then jump as high as you can 1,000 times, every week. Like, so because of those things, because of the factors that we have, like those end up building compensations, those end up building tight tissues and restrictive areas. And I think for the most part, athletes become numb to it. So like, it's safe to say that if you're not doing any soft tissue practice, if you don't have a mobility practice or some type of awareness around like rest and recovery, chances are you're probably pretty deep down that rabbit hole of, we'll say, not good health or subpar health, and honestly subpar performance. Like kind of on the line of like, we don't know what we don't know. Like your body doesn't understand how beat down it is until you take care of it, and then you're like, oh shoot. Like again, like what Ken always says, like the parking brake is off now. Like I'm jumping higher, I'm moving quicker, but I didn't like lift any more heavier weights, or I didn't do more reps in the weight room. And like, I think that is most often the time. If somebody's not so far down the rabbit hole like Mo is, where he was so injured and hurt, where we couldn't even do performance training, like when you can take that parking brake off for someone who's healthy and then they start jumping higher and they're like, whoa, I didn't do any weird training stuff. I didn't do any more reps with this guy. Then I think that's when like the big aha moment comes in, because athletes are so concerned about like getting better. So they believe the only way to get better is to shoot more, is to run more, is to lift more. And that's true to a certain extent. But if you're a locked in athlete, you're probably already doing a lot of that. So widening or broadening their perspective of performance training, rest and recovery, and body work has to be a piece of that. And it's not at the moment. But obviously guys like Mo help push the line because they've gone through it. And then him currently still playing, he says that he talks about his story to all the people around him. And then younger kids who are hurt now can kind of follow in his process. And then when he gets done playing, and he's most likely going to become a mentor or a coach at some point, that's just because like his personality leans to that, then now he's going to have that perspective and that network of people that he trusts, that he can now say, hey, youngin, you're going to be just as good as me, or even better. If your body's hurting, even if it's not hurting, this is what your process needs to be if you want to continue to be great. It's the job of being a pro athlete, and I don't think many athletes understand that.
You almost have to unlearn so much of what almost every coach you ever had told you. And the worst thing that they ever told you about your body was that if you're going to play this game, you're going to hurt, and you better just get used to it. You have to push through that. And that's the worst possible message that anybody can get, because pain is the biggest deterrent to athletic performance that there is. Pain in your body is simply there to slow you down so you don't tear or break anything. And coaches are telling people, just push through it, just push through it, just push through it. And if you do that, then you're damaging your body. You're actually setting the parking brake tighter. And so your vertical decreases, your speed decreases, your quickness decreases, everything gets worse, and then it builds on itself. I can confidently say that every single athlete on every single professional team, regardless of sport, is hurt right now. And they are. It's different levels of being hurt. You know, the guys that are out there playing aren't as hurt as the guys on the IL, but they're all hurt. And many of them never go to the trainer. They never go to the team doctor. And the reason is they write that down a little checklist like, oh, Mo's hurt. You know, you go to contract negotiation, guess what? That's less money for you. And the problem is most trainers in most levels, high school, college, professional, it doesn't matter, they don't know what to do to fix you. And that's not a slam on them. These are very smart people. These are guys that work really hard, but they're all learning from the same book. And it's ice and stem and some stretching and, you know, go do, you know, I don't know what to do with you. And so if the trainer can't help you and the doctor is going to give you an injection to get rid of pain, or they're going to whatever, but it doesn't fix you, it doesn't solve the problem, then what's the point in going? There's negative return from that. So if you're a high school athlete or a middle school athlete or a professional athlete of any stripe, it's like you have to understand that it's not supposed to hurt. You can jump higher if you're not hurting. You can be quicker if you're not hurting. You can be faster if you're not hurting. And it's like there are ways to get that done, and it does get frustrating. You look at people. I you know, every time I watch the ticker go across the television screen, this guy's out with an IL. He's on the IL and he's got an Achilles tendon strain. And he's on the injured list because he's got an Achilles tendon strain. What that means is his calf is tight because he sleeps in a position that shortens his calf all night long. He wakes up and it hurts more in the morning, and then it hurts when he's swinging a baseball bat or jumping, and so they put him on the injured reserve, and then they work on his Achilles, which will do nothing to correct the problem. They don't even know it's his sleep posture that's causing it. And it's like, how can you fix it if you don't even know what causes the problem? The answer is you really have to start understanding that there is something that you can do to not hurt. And as a matter of fact, if you're not hurting at all, you're going to be a better player. And it's like you might actually achieve your goals. But there are so many kids in high school, college, and professional levels that will never, ever reach their potential because they've listened to somebody that said, if you're going to be in this sport, you're going to hurt, and you better just push through it. Worst advice ever.
Being hurt and not knowing what to do and being like ready to quit, like ready to just move on, led me to, you know, meeting both of them at what seemed was literally the perfect time. To now, like every day, you know, we're working on something. Like I said, my last session with Ken was the least that it hurt. The session I did with Cristian this morning, there was issues that we were having from day one 3 years ago to where now it's like, nah, I don't really, like we can up the weight. Like I don't feel that. Like we can get better. They actually like care. All right, are we getting better? Is there anything I can do better? Like, are you holding me accountable? Are you doing your stuff at home? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you, you know, doing what you're supposed to do? So that's the really exciting part for me now, is just to see where we can take it, and also just being grateful that, you know, not very many people get to, you know, play college basketball, let alone professional basketball, which is a blessing in and of itself. But then now, like me trying to see, like, all right, how far can I actually take this? This next year, as a 28-year-old, 5-6 years removed from college, I can probably confidently say, physically will probably be my best year since maybe my second year in college.
Your body's not meant to be injured. It's not meant to be sick. It actually is designed to fix itself. And what I do isn't healing anybody. What I'm doing is facilitate your body's ability to heal itself. That's what we do. That's it. I'm in awe of this machine that we get to work with because it's amazing. I think the biggest thing that we do for people is we give them hope that there's a chance that they can actually feel good again. And that's what gives me the most satisfaction. And then seeing people reach their potential. I don't think there's anything sadder than unmet potential. And it's like every day that happens because people they're so beat down and so discouraged because they've been lied to by so many different groups, but there's so much more. And part of the reason we were doing this anyway was Mo was at a point where he was ready to give up. And we don't want anybody to give up. It's like, just keep going.